Welcome back. You're still watching The Globe. Now, just before the break, we were talking to former Finance Minister and current Vice President of the MDC Alliance, Tendai Biti, about the situation along the Beitbridge border post, where we're seeing a number of arrests by both sets of authorities in South Africa and Zimbabwe. Mr. Biti, just before the break, we were talking about people moving goods between the two countries, and as long as I can remember, people would cross the border either to buy food and provisions, but also to buy goods to resell in the country. And authorities are concerned that duties are being lost in their millions.
Look, you know, the average Zimbabwean is provided by law a tax-free rebate of US $300, which is around 5,000 rand, assuming the rate is around 1:15. So these are poor working people trying to eke a living. And I don't think that governments on either side of the border should be concerned with that. But there is huge smuggling. I reckon that around $5 billion worth of goods pass through border posts. But the government of Zimbabwe doesn't collect anywhere near duties equivalent to $5 billion. So it's the big boys, it's the cartels controlled by ZANU-PF who are importing fuel into Zimbabwe. We are importing massive machinery, to mine their gold and so forth. So the sins of the elite should not be visited on small working families that are trying to eke out a living. And if you go to any border on the African continent, whether it's Nyamapanda, whether it's Churundu, working people will cross to buy clothes, to buy small goods, shoes, to look after their families. And we shouldn't criminalize these innocent people who are traveling in order to look after their families because of the crisis in their own countries. So you won't see South Africans crossing the border. You will see citizens moving from poorer countries, mismanaged countries, failed states like Zimbabwe, going into the more affluent countries. And as I said before, the crisis and the solution becomes political, not criminalization of working families trying to eke out a living. But there are cartels, and those cartels, yes, measures should be taken. But cartels, I want to give you an example. Cigarettes are being exported into South Africa. Every year, $1 billion worth of cigarettes are being exported into South Africa by elite cigarette cronies linked to the ruling party. Those people don't get arrested. Those people, you will not see them at Beitbridge border post. You see poor drivers driving trucks for these rich elite. So there's a massive illicit financial flows at the border post, at Beitbridge border post, fueled by ZANU-PF elites, not the ordinary women selling dukes and doils that they are arresting. So leave, the working people who are trying to make a living alone and go for the big fish who happen to be the who is who of ZANU-PF.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is by value, the bulk of the smuggling is being done by people that are either in authority or connected to people in authority. And because of the corruption that is existing at the borders, these goods are just flowing in to the country duty-free and are making millions for an elite few.
Correct. Take gold. I mentioned the cigarettes. Take gold. As much as 70% of the gold now being processed at the Rand refinery in South Africa is actually Zimbabwean gold. But who controls gold in Zimbabwe? It's the ZANU-PF elites. I know one family, a very top family in Zimbabwe, that almost owns every claim of gold in the Midlands. So stop punishing my Ezra and Mrs. Dube, who are trying to earn an innocent living by crossing the border to look after their children in a country where there's 95% unemployment. Punish the big boys, but punishing the big boys means hitting ZANU-PF, and you can't hit ZANU-PF. And so there's hypocrisy, which the South African authorities know. There's heavy-handedness, and I pray that President Ramaphosa, the Minister of Home Affairs in South Africa, can give our people a moratorium, allow them to regularize their position so that they can earn a living for their families, but resolve the political crisis, because that is the mother of the crisis in Zimbabwe, which has now spilled into the region and has had a destabilizing influence across the length and breadth of the region.
You keep talking about solving the political situation in the country. What can South Africa, Botswana, Mozambique, Zambia, Namibia do to help Zimbabwe, especially when every 5 years, whatever, there are elections and it seems as if people are voting for the ruling party every time?
Well, I don't think anyone, votes for ZANU-PF. I think, Peter, let's not reinvent the wheel. In 2007, on the 29th of March, 2007, an extraordinary summit of the heads of state and government of SADC took place in Dar es Salaam and mandated President Mbeki and South Africa to find a political solution in Zimbabwe anchored around dialogue. The time for that is now. Zimbabwe is reeling under the weight of a government that has no legitimacy, of a president that did not win the 2018 presidential election. So let's find a political solution, but let's learn from the errors and mistakes, the omissions and commissions of the government of national unity, so that this time we have an irreversible process that anchors Zimbabwe on an irreversible process of recovery and sustainability. For 4 decades, Zimbabweans have suffered, Zimbabweans have been humiliated, Zimbabweans have been embarrassed. It's now time to rethink Zimbabwe, press the reset button and find a permanent solution to the Zimbabwean crisis.
Mr. Biti, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed for joining us. Thanks for your time.